but 6 points really means it's all to play for with 16 laps to go. All the bikes on the grid absolutely identical, so it's up to the rider to make the difference.
And the riders who've been making the difference in recent rounds, the recent 4 men, as well as your 2 championship protagonists. Veda Pratama, a race victory in race 1 yesterday, his 2nd win of the season after success in race 2 of the Thai Grand Prix at Buriram. And Carter Thompson, the race 1 winner at the Malaysian Grand Prix, very much the man who held, as I said, 2nd position throughout that race. So they, again, as far as the race victories concerned, are the men to watch. Veda Pratama then starts from pole position. Pratama, our race 1 winner, and by a dominant margin as well. He was never troubled, took advantage of the scrapping behind him for 2nd and 3rd positions to escape away. Here we go then for the championship decider in the Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup for 2022. The 9th season, the 8th title that's going to be handed out. Of course, we lost one due to the pandemic in 2020. It is Veda Pratama, the race 1 winner at the Indonesian round, who lines up from pole position for a 2nd time, hoping to escape away just as he did 24 hours ago for his 2nd victory of the 2022 campaign. Carter Thompson was best of the rest, sitting in 2nd position throughout that race, but the focus will be on the battle between Hakim Danish and Shinya Ezawa, separated by 6 points ahead of this 11th and final race of the 2022 season. Steve English alongside me. Race 2 of the final round of the Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup gets underway. We watch to see who will claim the whole shot. It's Veda Pratama, the race 1 winner and pole sitter, who is the first away. Carter Thompson into 2nd position. So there, as there were on the grid, Hakim Danish going very aggressively into turn 1 and almost clips the back tyre of Carter Thompson. So no hanging around for Hakim Danish, and neither is there any hanging around for Shinya Ezawa, his championship rival, who is straight through and onto Danish's tail in P4. That's a vital first turn overtake from him against Fetasan, who's been dropped down to 6th place.
Yeah, and a good start as well from Nicholas up into the top 5 as well from the 3rd row of the grid on the number 12 machine. As it is Pratama at the front of the field, he's going to be under pressure on the opening couple of laps to see if he's able to hold off these riders behind him. Yesterday we saw that the lead group broke away, and then it was a case of Pratama in the middle of the race being able to open up a big gap to everyone else.
Right, rider Fetasan has been dropped down to 7th position now, whereas Wanto has come through as they go side by side for 2nd position as early as turn 10. A big action hotspot that was here yesterday.
Yeah, just seeing a black flag is being given now for the number 8, that's for Putra. He didn't manage to get to the starting grid in time, so he'll be black flagged and have to come back into the pit. So that's the end of his season.
A messy start to the race as far as he was concerned, and indeed this race as a whole, as Pratama makes the lunge back to the inside on Hakim Danish, who had initially led there at one stage on lap number 1. Ezawa's in the mix as well. This is where it gets tight, much tighter than it was in the early stages here yesterday, to be perfectly honest. 5 or 6 riders very much in that lead group and scrapping over the podium places early on, and they're queuing up, and there's contact already by the time we get to turn 16 on lap 1.
Yeah, we've already had 3 races today, and you can see there the 13, that's Hakim Danish getting ran out wide. But we've had 3 races already today, so there's much more rubber down on the track, and that's why we're able to have all those bikes much wider on the run down towards turn 16.
3 abreast coming off turn 16. It was Danish who was stuck up on the outs, remember, in order to claim the Asia Talent Cup for 2022. Veda Pratama in 2nd position. If anyone's going to catch Danish with their head down and without relying on a slipstream advantage, it's Pratama, because he's had the pace all weekend regardless of having anyone around him. He led race 1 from start to finish.
Yeah, from pole position, he's been impressive all the way through on the number 7 machine. Youngest rider in the field, but
in laps he led yesterday, has led more laps than anyone else in this Asia Talent Cup for 2022. Such has been the dominance when he has been able to lead races. Danish is now very much up against Pratama, who's closed the gap down to 0.2 of a second.
This is when the championship could well be lost for Ezawa. You can see Carter Thompson trying to come down the inside. We've already seen that the number 7 of Pratama has been able to break away from Ezawa. He's kept in front of Carter Thompson, but he can't afford to make a mistake. He runs out wide.
And bad news for Shinya Ezawa, picked off by Carter Thompson, drops behind him into 4th place. Meanwhile, Hakim Danish is up at the head of the field. He won't mind if Veda Pratama comes through for the race lead on lap 6 coming up, because as long as he sticks with him and stays away from the reach and the clutches of Thompson and Ezawa, he'll be on his way to the Asia Talent Cup success. The question now is whether Danish is smart enough to work in tandem with Pratama just to try and build their gap for the remainder of this race.
Didn't fight back in into turn one. He understands that if they work together, they're not going to cost each other time. So you want to make clean moves in the ATC. It's all everyone with the same bike, so it's all about using that slipstream, not costing each other time. They've got a second in hand on Thompson. Typically when you talk to the riders and the personnel from the ATC about this track, they say half a second is that gap where you can break away from everyone else.
And of course in these small bike, small capacity categories, the key is to keep up your momentum. The one thing you can't afford to do is see that momentum interrupted. Danish coming back through here on Pratama, but Pratama still maintaining your race lead, and Shinya Ezawa getting a little bit loose there on the tail of Carter Thompson for third.
Yeah, Pratama's lap last time around, the fastest lap of the race, but interestingly, a couple of tenths of a second faster than anything we had yesterday as well. So track conditions, as good as they've been for the ATC riders, now it's up to them to get their head down, try and open up that gap.
End of the weekend, and the most rubber that will be laid down is down, and we see them making their way through. The times gradually evolving, the circuit gradually evolving, the times gradually improving as this weekend has gone on. Veda Pratama still leads from Hakim Danish in second.
Second for this weekend. He's actually a good rider to be able to work with, but for Ezawa, he's already 1.3 seconds behind Danish now. That gap's only getting longer.
Yes, Danish is not going to be afraid of just going with Pratama. He will have seen that Pratama escaped away 6 seconds at the head of the field in race 1, and if he does the same again here and Danish can stay with him, that will be 6 seconds he would have over Shinya Ezawa. Ezawa's going to have other ideas from third position, but you don't very often see groups close back together at this rate. 1.5 seconds is the gap now between second and third positions. Barring an error for Pratama and Danish, it's looking good for the number 13 to take this title.
Yeah, the race is won for the race is run as far as Ezawa is concerned, unless he's able to bridge that gap. It's so difficult in the ATC to bridge a gap like that just because of the nature of these bikes. So unless it comes down to a scrap at the front of the field with Danish and Pratama, you're not going to be able to catch them.
So Tryhardika there, who has gone down outside of the points-paying positions anyway, but obviously that will end his race on lap number 7. I think that was at turn 2. So the second retirement of the race after Putra was ordered back to the pits, and his
line. So unfortunate end to the season for him.
In now to lap number 8, less than a tenth of a second between Pratama and Danish. But you like scrapping with every fibre of his body here to close down, trying to have clear track in front of him to get his head down and close down Veda Pratama and Hakim Danish. But Danish at the moment not only looks like the championship winner for this season, but a potential race winner, just biding his time, remaining behind Pratama. You can see that he's letting off and choosing to brake earlier than Pratama just to leave him with track position, because he doesn't need to hit the front.
And that's the difference. He's been able to see that if you try and attack them, you can lose time. Whereas with Ezawa trying to come through and Thompson, it was all about making sure you can make that move. So good racecraft there from Hakim Danish.
It is still Ezawa and Thompson who hold 3rd and 4th positions. So Nicholas and Wakamatsu are still behind. And Danish from here may well just think, do you know what, 2nd place and the
on that number 6 machine as well. So Thompson, the whole way through this weekend, has been up there inside the top 3 or 4 spots, and he wants to make sure he can get another podium to back up what he had yesterday.
Plenty to work for further back as well between Gunmie, as Gilden would snatch 3rd position away overall.
Yeah, Pratama's had such good form over the course of the second half of this season. It's been really impressive to see a young rider like him, the youngest rider in the field, only 13 years of age, just really coming of age all the way through this season. He's certainly one to keep an eye on. For the ATC, it's all about making sure that the moments when you can make people step up and take notice of you, that you take advantage of it. Pratama's done that all the way through this season.
Lap 9 is a big one in the context of the championship. Hakim Danish with a new fastest lap of the race. The rival Hakim Danish on 1 lap alone. And unless there are problems now, or unless these two really begin to hold one another up, Shinya Ezawa is seeing the Asia Talent Cup evaporate away with the 7 and the 13 at the head of the field.
Yeah, they're not going to be able to hold themselves up that much. It's going to be a case of if there's an instant between them, as it is for Hakim Danish, he's not willing to make that move right now.
To the podium battle.
Yeah, and once again, as we've seen so many times in the past, the ATC, whenever you're battling, you're costing each other time. It's 9/10 of a second it lost to the race leaders last time around, so 6 seconds in hand for Hakim Danish. He just needs to cruise the final quarter of this race, and no need to latch onto the back of Pratama and try and win the championship with a race victory.
But then you look further back, third position down, a tenth of a second, a tenth of a second, a tenth of a second, a tenth of a second. The gap between each of the riders from third place is down to 8th. Then it's Wakamatsu and Gunmie. So still those places at very least can easily change. 2 seconds from 3rd to 13th, as it was just a few short laps ago. As far as the championship is concerned, well, Shinya Ezawa in 4th position, Hakim Danish in 2nd. So it would be a more flattering lead than certainly it's looked since the Race 1 retirement for Danish.
He's been able to pick up a couple of podiums in Europe as well in the junior GP paddock, so this has been a very complete season for him across the board, but now he just needs to make sure he can complete the race and get to claim this ATC title.
Yes, he has managed to lead the championship all the way since March, has Hakim Danish. Despite that retirement from Race 1 in Sepang, he extended his lead over the leader.
And that's why he's going to be a rider worth keeping an eye on for the next few years. Obviously, the minimum age limits have been rising in recent years for different classes of bikes, so he's going to be on Talent Cup bikes for the next while, but certainly you wouldn't be too surprised to see him racing in Europe as well next season. But with 2 laps to go when they come across the line, that's what you got to do. You're fighting for a podium in the ATC.
Well, that's it. The reality is for most of those riders, they don't really care about the championship standings. They don't care who's champion of the Asia Talent Cup. They're just thinking about whether they can get 3rd position this afternoon, and walked over a lap now to go.
Watch for the number 19 at Haffey as well, because he's been the rider that's slowly and surely picked off one after the other to get himself up into 6th position, and it looks like he's maybe picked up another spot as well there from the timing tower on the left-hand side of the screen.
Yes, Farish Haffey, who had a best results thus far. This is his debut Asia Talent Cup season of 6th position. That was race 1 of round 1, all the way back in March for 6th position. Then Haffey, I should say, he's up in 5th position and scrapping with Ezawa, and has actually got through by the looks of things for 4th position. We saw them there picked up, making their way through the first sector. Pratama now has a 3-second lead, so this is the kind of dominant pace we've seen for him. Quite happy to run his own race on his own at the front of the field. He's led more laps than anyone else in the Asia Talent Cup in 2022, and he's adding some more here this afternoon.
Yeah, very impressive campaign from Pratama, but it's all about this scrap now for the final step of the podium. And certainly for the likes of Carter Thompson, he's always wanted to be at the top of that group through the course of this race, but is that the place you want to be now with a half lap to go?
Hakim Danish, who has been the dominant force in this championship. He's had more wins, he's had more podiums than anyone else this season. He has been the man to beat. He's not this weekend. That's Veda Pratama, who's going to do the double, but Hakim Danish, 3.8 seconds now behind the race leader, has got far too much in hand for Ezawa to even dream of making it up. It's over 10 seconds, that gap to 3rd position. Pratama, your race leader. Gunmie is still down in 8th place, so he still has the opportunity to make up those extra positions and the extra 6 points to claim 3rd overall. But it is going to be Veda Pratama who exits the final turn to make it back-to-back victories and dominate his home round, the Indonesian round, the last of the season. And Hakim Danish crosses the line in the 2nd place that he needs in the final race of the season. It's gone down to the wire, but your 2022 Idemitsu Asia Talent Cup winner is Hakim Danish. Shinya Ezawa gets the final step, Ezawa who's missed out.
And it's a unfortunate nature for Ezawa. There has to be a winner, there has to be a loser, and for Ezawa in this final round of the year, he just hasn't quite been able to do the job that Hakim Danish has done, and Danish a very well deserving ATC winner for 2022, and nice to see a Malaysian win the ATC for the first time as well.
Good work from Ezawa, you must say. That was
ATC riders, they grow quite a lot at this age as well, so for Hakim Danish, it's been such a good season all the way through. He's had podiums in the ETC as well, and now this ATC success as well, but it has been a season where he's shown himself to be the rider with the best racecraft in the ATC, and a real cool head when he's had to have it.
This is what I absolutely love about the Asia Talent Cup. Out here, they're as passionate about this category as they are about any other in the world, and they were more enthusiastic about getting a photo with their home hero and race to the last rider back to the paddock and milking it somewhat as itself. Dropped out of the running yesterday in 5th position, only 8th place here today. That means that with Veda Pratama up at the head of the field, he nicks third position overall. But Gunmir deserves his credit for his part in this championship as well. He's had 3 second places and a couple of thirds, strong in Buriram and race 1 in Sepang to bring himself back into contention. Just ran out of steam this weekend.
Yeah, it's been a tough end to the season for Gunmir last year here in Indonesia. He was one of the riders to keep an eye on, so certainly he'll be another name that people will be paying attention to going forward. But right now it's all about Pratama as the race winner and Dinesh as our ATC winner.
Trophy presentations then about to be made to Shinya Ezawa, who takes third position in race 2 of the Indonesian round, and then second place to Hakim Dinesh, but he's already wearing that 2022 Asia Talent Cup winner t-shirt and regalia. So here is your first podium presentation to Shinya Ezawa, the 10th of course, race of the season yesterday, where he was able to get close to the podium but not quite onto it. He's back on the podium here today. Shinya Ezawa, that's his 6th podium in the 11 races that we've had in 2022.
Yeah, super consistent season, always inside the top 6 positions, and he's been rewarded with 2nd in the overall standings, and we look pretty pleased with his podium there.
It is Hakim Dinesh, though, who takes honours here this afternoon. Only made his debut relatively recently in this class. He's not one of the class veterans. Gunmir has got more experience in the category, but it was Hakim Dinesh who has managed to bring it home. It is not to be as far as race victories are concerned. He ends with the 4. 2 of them, though, here in Mandalika earlier on in the season, back in March. That very much put him in pole position as far as claiming this championship is concerned. He saved himself, really, after the fall from race 1 in Sepang by bouncing straight back to his 4th victory of the season. He was also a winner in Buriram. So a few different venues there where Hakim Dinesh has been a race winner. But it's Veda Pratama who is your race winner here this afternoon, representing Indonesia. National anthem, well and truly well sung. Just with the door to the commentary box open, we could hear race 2 brings us to the conclusion of this 2022 Asia Talent Cup. Round 6 is complete with a victory for Veda Pratama ahead of Hakim Dinesh and Shinya Ezawa. As far as the championship standings are concerned, it's Dinesh by a 10-point margin over Ezawa and Veda Pratama.